about the help that they need to get for Aaron Rodgers. How do they plan to add help for him over the next 2 months?
Well, Greeny, right now they're not in a position to do that because of their salary cap situation. So what are they going to do before free agency? Well, they're going to have to shed some more veteran contracts, and they're going to have to do some restructuring, including Rodgers' contract itself, which will help them in a salary cap situation and possibly give Rodgers the assurances that he needs, that he's their guy more than just year to year. But General Manager Brian Gutekunst told us this week, Greeny, that he does think they will be able to make a move or two in free agency. It won't be a ton, but he will be able to do something. And one guy to keep an eye on is Will Fuller, the Texans receiver. Remember back in October, November, they tried to trade for him before the deadline. Well, Fuller is a free agent now. Don't be surprised if they try to do that in free agency before we get to the draft.
That's a really interesting one. I remember the possibility of it last year. He had the suspension and everything else, but he's got as much speed and big playability as just about anybody. And then, of course, there is the draft. What are you starting to hear about their draft strategy, again, sitting there late in the first round?
Well, late in the first round is the key, Greeny, because one thing that we know about Gutekunst, this will be his fourth draft. The previous three drafts, he's traded within the first round all three times. Of course, the most memorable one last year, trading up to pick Jordan Love. But don't be surprised if he tries to move up from 29. How high can they get? Well, that remains to be seen. But as for positions, look, we talked all last year about whether they would finally draft a receiver in the first round. They haven't done it here in Green Bay since 2002. Doesn't look likely that they will do it again. The reason they lost that NFC Championship game to Tampa was because they had trouble on the offensive line. They had trouble at cornerback. Those would be the two positions that I would think would be better fits for the Packers than, say, a receiver. And the run defense was a weakness for a lot of last season as well. Rob Demovsky, outstanding, always the great insight for us from Green Bay Live here. Thank you very much. I want to bring Field and Ninko back into the conversation if I can. And so, Field, let's start thinking about that. What do you believe the Packers should be thinking about as Aaron Rodgers at 37 tries to get back to another Super Bowl?
Moves that help them win now, Greeny. And the Packers have had a ton of success over the past 30 years by being a team that's been true to its board, drafting for value, keeping the bigger picture in mind. They need to understand their window with Aaron Rodgers, the MVP of last year, may not be that large anymore. Maybe it's 3 more years. And if the Packers go the entirety of Aaron Rodgers' career and they win just 1 Super Bowl, you tell me whether that's defined as a smash success or not. Last year, they drafted a quarterback in the first round and a running back in the second round when they already had Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams in the fold. Jordan Love and A.J. Dillon are going to be good players. This offseason, my mindset is I want to do whatever I can to maximize 2021. That may be different from organizational philosophy, but you don't have forever with Aaron Rodgers as your signal caller. Now is the time to pounce.
I'm with you. I mean, it's very difficult to win if you're going to have one eye on the present and one eye on the future, and the future is now when your quarterback is 37 years old. Ninko, what do you think?
Yeah, they got to win now. You got to get to a Super Bowl. You got to get back to that championship game, and you can't do it trying to think about 3 to 4 years in the future. So if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm going up to the front office or whoever's making all the decisions and saying, look, I don't have many bites left of the apple. I need to get back to a Super Bowl. Let's go. Let's get some key players back. Let's make this team the #1 team in the NFC because you got the #1 quarterback. And let's get everybody on board. Let's address some issues defensively. Let's shore up the depth at the offensive line so we don't have an issue if our starter goes down in the playoffs and now I'm getting hit every play. So they got to figure it out and fast because they only have a small window to win a Super Bowl championship.
Correct. And to illustrate the point that Field just made a moment ago, they traded for Brett Favre in 1992. They have had first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback play basically every year for 30 years. And they've won 2 Super Bowls and made 3 in those first 3 seasons. Who is the only other?
I'm not very confident about this one, G. I'm going to go with Dak Prescott, but I have a feeling that I'm going to be wrong on that one.
You are wrong. The answer is Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston.
That is sneaky. Very sneaky
Look
by
at
Hembo.
Sneaky Hembo talking trash to you. I hope you pick him up and throw him in something. All right. Meanwhile, we are talking about Baker Mayfield today, and here's why. He made huge strides this past season, won his first playoff game Now all the attention will be on whether or not he gets a contract extension. His head coach, Kevin Stefanski, was just on KJZ on ESPN Radio moments ago. Here's what he said.
I'm lucky in that I have a really good general manager that gets to worry about those. But I will tell you, I mean, obviously, Andrew and I talk about all of our players and all of these things. But I'll just tell you that all of these decisions, it's a business, but things take care of themselves. It works itself out. And we're just going to focus, or at least I'm going to focus on the day-to-day. And as it applies to Baker, I know he's going to do the same.
So he said that, and then this is not relevant, but it sure is interesting. Last night, Baker Mayfield tweeted the following: almost 100% Em and I just saw a UFO drop straight out of the sky on our way home from dinner. We stopped and looked at each other and asked if either of us saw it. Very bright ball of light going straight down out of the sky towards Lake Travis. Anybody else witnessed this? He tweeted that 8 hours ago. Now, this probably has no bearing whatsoever on his contract negotiation situation, but it certainly seemed worthy of showing it to you. So, having said that, let me come to you, Field Yates. The Browns have an interesting decision to make, and there are a lot of situations going on in the NFL right now they're probably taking into consideration. What are those?
So, Greeny, let's paint the case for extending Baker Mayfield right now very briefly. One, if the player performs well during the extension, it's going to eventually become a team-friendly deal in a few years. Two, you avoid a Dak Prescott situation where you're going through frustrating, drawn-out negotiations with your quarterback and playing year to year. And I get those. But I think the Jared Goff and Carson Wentz trades that aren't even official yet but have been consummated are cautionary tales right now for the Cleveland Browns. Let me be clear. Baker Mayfield was outstanding last year. And I'm not saying he's not going to continue to be really good, but he has been more up and down than somebody like Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson, who were no doubt about it extensions. If I'm the Browns, maybe I'm tapping the brakes right now, letting this play out one more year, which can be a benefit for not just the team, but Baker himself as well in the long term.
So let's be clear what we're saying here. 3 years into your career is the earliest a team can extend a contract. They're not obligated to. They can pick up the fifth-year option and control him for a minimum of 2 more years without even getting the franchise tag involved. Those are the options in front of them. Right now, Rob Ninkovich, are you ready, if you're the Browns, to sort of look at this like a relationship? Are you ready to marry Baker Mayfield and spend the rest of your lives together?
Got to pump the brakes. I need 1 more year. Just pump the brakes here on a long-term extension. There's a few things that I would like to see improve from Baker, and that's basically just drop back passing. And you look at play action pass and all those things that work together with the running game. Yes, he does great at moving the ball down the field with a great methodical running game and play action pass. But when they have to throw the ball and you know he's throwing the ball, he struggles a bit. He's bottom of the league when it comes to straight drop back passes. And when he throws the ball 30 to 40 times a game, it's not a good thing. So I would need to see a little bit more development in just purely the passing game, because if I'm going to pay you a lot of money, I want a quarterback that I can rely on and back passes and know he's going to put the ball where it needs to be.
All right, so we're 0 for 2 so far. Canty, how about you?
No, I'm agreeing with both of those guys. I'm not paying Baker Mayfield this offseason. He's not the quarterback in the 2018 draft class that's going to get an extension this summer. I think Baker Mayfield has to be more consistent. In the first 3 years for Baker, it's been too much of a roller coaster. And in the NFL, you want your quarterback to be a stabilizing force, and you also want him to be a force multiplier. What I mean by that is making everybody around you better, elevating the talent level around you. The Cleveland Browns has done a great job of being able to surround Baker with the talent, but we know once you pay that quarterback, you're going to start losing pieces. You're going to start losing some of your talent base, so your quarterback has to be able to elevate the play of the guys that are stepping in. Baker Mayfield hasn't shown me that he can consistently do that, and so that's the part that I'm looking for in terms of the evolution of his game.
To be clear, in that draft class, we're talking about Josh Allen in Buffalo. I assume you're ready to marry him.
Absolutely.
And Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. And then you've got Darnold and Rosen, and that was that class. And how the UFO factors into all of this, I suppose, remains to be seen. In the meantime, let's talk about a quarterback about whom there are no questions, and that's Tom Brady, who joined Peyton Manning this past year as the only starting quarterbacks to win Super Bowls with multiple teams. He was on the Late Late Show with James Corden the other night, and he opened up about what went south in New England. I thought this was fascinating. Give a listen.
I think that when we were at that point,